Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Professor Joy podcast. I think today's a very exciting day.
Yes.
I think it is. It is. But before we get to the news and everything, have to introduce the players. So, welcome, Stephanie.
Hello.
Stephanie is a social media expert here at Joy Score, as we're here in the world headquarters here in Southern California. My name is Gary Metzger. I'm a professor of journalism at Long Beach State and the person who is getting ready to unwrap an early Christmas gift, as it were, Professor Joy. Hello.
Thank you.
Will you unwrap the gift for us? Everybody's waiting to hear
For
our new book.
the new book.
Yes. Was there something else you wanted to unwrap for us?
I thought you were hinting toward Donald Trump.
Oh, I wasn't sure you wanted to open up that can of worms this early.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's not a gift. That's a can of worms.
That is a can of worms, absolutely.
But after finishing the book I started with Joy and Health and Happiness.
Yes.
Then Joy Score. The second Joy Score. And then Health Score. Earth Score. And then I realized that 70% of the population of the world deals and suffers from anxiety.
And there's two other ones also that we talk about.
And then you have the next one is depression. And the third element, which if you take all three, that's everybody in the world, is stress. So between anxiety, depression, and stress, we got the whole world. So our book, the next book, is going to focus on anxiety.
You are quite prolific, by the way.
Thank you.
You are quite prolific. And Steffi, I didn't tell you this, but when I was talking with Professor Joy one morning, and we were talking about the issues of depression and anxiety and stress, I said, flip that and take the first letter of each of those words, and you get sad.
Yeah.
Stress, anxiety, depression, SAD.
Yeah.
You get sad, which is sad.
It is sad.
It is.
I've been thinking a lot about this whole idea of why the world is suffering from these three things. And I think I have an answer, but not a solution. Did you know, both of you, what is missing in development of children before the age of 7?
Reading.
I want to say fathers because you've brought it up.
It is
Yeah.
We raise kids, majority of them, fatherless. And I don't like to bash men, although in my opinion, men are animals, because sometimes they start dating and then all of a sudden the girl becomes pregnant. And she calls in the morning and says, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And he said, "How the fuck did that happen?"
You have to explain basic biology. But another thing is talking about father. I mean, look at the rulers around the world, right?
Yeah.
Mostly men.
Yeah.
I mean, look what's going on in the Middle East. Look what's going on in our country. Look what's going on, the battle between two rich men that I hate to open up this.
Men are by nature, in my opinion, are worthless animals.
It's the ego.
Ego.
Especially with your friend.
What, and I don't know if you can be so open about these things, but what's on their mind is generally three things. You know what they are?
Sex,
And,
power,
and
Money.
money.
That's it. I mean, look at all of these people. And you know, we have a bunch of them right now, like when our idiot president had his inauguration, there were all these billionaires sitting in the front row because he wants to be a billionaire himself, you know. And all those billionaires are men. And then you have Putin and Kim Jong-un and Xi and Netanyahu and all these, you know, all of them are perhaps the wealthiest people in the world, but they only think about themselves, nobody else.
Very true.
And that doesn't make them a good person.
No, it does not. No, it does not. I dare say they probably don't have much joy in their life, but they
Mhm.
probably have a lot of anxiety
Oh, yeah.
in their lives, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. Now, I was just looking at it, and do you know what percentage of the population of the world is U.S.?
I do not.
4%.
4%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know that we use in this country 90% of the psychotic drugs produced in the world?
Wow.
4% population is using 90% of the drugs, which are made for depression, anxiety, stress, and I mean everybody in this country is suffering from anxiety, depression, and stress.
I know 3 people who probably aren't.
You know, so anyway, so our new book and new chapter is about anxiety.
It is. And the book is called Anxiety, A Joyful Comeback.
Nice.
Yes.
I like the name.
Yeah. So was there anything else that inspired you that, was there a specific call to action for you to come up with this book?
Well, you know, I don't know exactly how many months ago, Mr. Zuckerberg, I'm sorry, Zuckerberg. I should be calling him names, you know.
I'm sure he's heard worse.
He's heard worse. He was in front of Congress, and there were a bunch of parents who had lost their children because of his algorithm in Instagram. Because, and you know, his employees have come and told him, as a sir, our algorithm is hurting children. He said, I don't give a fuck, I gotta make money. How much money do you want to make? So, and you know, these kids, there's nothing wrong with them, but they start comparing it to themselves to other kids.
Yes.
Who are better looking or
Yep.
taller or whatever. And they go in downward spiral till they kill themselves.
There's actually a class action lawsuit against Instagram right now.
Did it?
Yeah, for like pain and suffering. I signed
Really?
up
Are
for
you
it.
serious? I didn't know that.
I signed up for it yesterday.
Oh.
Did you?
Yeah. So
See, Steffi has a young child, you know,
Yes.
so she should,
Yeah.
because I have no doubt that he's going to suffer from that.
yeah.
Professor Joy, we say in the opening aspects of the book that there's no way that we are going to completely eliminate anxiety,
Right.
but that this book should help people to understand it and learn about it.
Right. Yeah, these are not the things. See, all three things: anxiety, depression, stress. You know what is number 4?
Obesity?
It is. And you know what all four of them start from?
No.
Low self-esteem. That's the starting point of it. People feeling somewhat down.
Don't you feel like the current administration, that one particular person has low self-esteem, and that's why they need to do the big parade that they do to, celebrate the army
That,
and
that guy is pathetic.
I think that parade probably lowered his self-esteem even more because
Really?
nobody
Oh,
showed
yeah,
up.
because nobody showed up. Did you
yeah,
know?
that's right. Nobody showed
Nobody
up.
showed up.
That's right.
In fact, all the people were doing the protest on No King.
Right.
Did you know in Long Beach Ocean Boulevard, after I talked to you, I said, let me go check it out. It took me half hour to go through that
Yeah.
section.
No, I know people who were
And
part
they
of
were-
that protest.
They all had made homemade signs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
no
wow.
king, no this, that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, how this guy lives with himself. Because I was thinking about it. If I were him, I would have killed myself by now.
Yeah.
With the humiliation.
I mean, when he signed the big, beautiful bill, he did it outdoors and he had the B-1 bombers fly. Like, why do you need the B-1 bombers to fly overhead?
This guy.
How much did that cost the government?
Right.
But see, you have to keep in mind. I talked about low self-esteem. This guy maybe is the lowest self-esteemed president we ever had. Number one, I mean, there's no point in wasting time on him because the guy just come back.
So, in our introduction, we talk about anxiety disorders and how they're pretty much on the upswing, obviously, and everything with what is going on. So we say in the United States alone, millions of people live with specific phobias, and that is up to 12% of the population. Social anxiety disorder, about 7% of the public. Generalized anxiety disorder, about 3%. Agoraphobia, about 1.5%. And separation anxiety disorder, 4% of children have that issue.
Those numbers you said, I think they're all related to children, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Agoraphobia is spiders? Or
I don't believe it is.
okay.
Yeah. That's arachnophobia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But what we say on a positive note is that you have to face it to free it with anxiety. And anxiety is energy, and you channel it into creativity. And so just over the weekend, I was reading a review in the Wall Street Journal. For those of you who watched the Squid Game, it's coming into its third season.
Yes.
And the Wall Street Journal interviewed the creator of the Squid Game. And the very last question that was asked is, what sort of advice do you give to people? And he said, I do try to remember and keep in mind a phrase as a creator to never remain in my comfort zone.
Wow.
And I think that's important with people who have anxiety. Not only that, he says, I always try to do something that scares me.
Because he sat on that idea for 10 years.
Really?
And nobody would pick it up. And then finally, like, Netflix picked it up.
Really?
He was really, that's where the idea came from. He was struggling with money, and like, he thought like the lengths he would go to get money. He sat on it for 10 years. He tried to sell it, but nobody wanted to pick it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
See,
So
she's already talking about facts.
Yeah. So never remain in the comfort zone.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I
No,
think
that is also true for designers to always think outside the box
right.
and not never try to be comfortable.
Give us an example of something you did where you created outside of the box.
You know, so year 2000, there is a fellow out there, his name is George Soros. Have you heard of him?
I have heard of George Soros, yes.
Perhaps the wealthiest man in Europe. So he bought a chain called Europlex. And he told his CEO that I want Europlex to be the most advanced cinemaplexes in the world. So Charles Wasocki, who's the CEO, he invited 12 world-class architects, including me. I'm not, and I wasn't a world-class architect, but I somehow got into line. So I sat down with my office. We had about 23 architects as the judge. You know, we were given $25,000 to enter this competition. All the architects were given $25,000. I said, well, by the time we do this project, I go down to London and make a presentation, we're looking at 200,000, you know. And if we invest that kind of money and we don't get the project, so we pretty much would be bankrupt, you know, because we're not a big company. Now, all the other people were big companies, you know, 10 times, 100 times larger than.
Talk about anxiety.
Yeah,
Talk
exactly.
about stress, right?
Anxiety. So, and also Charles Wasocki said that, look, we're looking for something fresh and new. And if you don't have anything, don't waste your time and money, you know. So people in my office said, do you have an idea? I said, yeah, but I don't know what it means. I said, what is it? I said, I've been thinking about digital architecture. And I kind of have an idea, but I don't know what it really means. So everybody said, yeah, that sounds very good because we haven't heard of it. And what it really meant was a simple idea where you, cinemaplexes, you've seen like Edwards and AMC.
Yes.
So you have Looney Tunes painted and cartoons and stuff like that. My idea was that these cinemaplexes would be digital. There's nothing, they're just like a backdrop, the stage. Everything is projected digitally. Even the colors are projected. They're not, the walls are not painted. The colors are projected on the walls.
Oh my gosh.
So we developed the presentation. I went down and showed it to the executive board, and sure enough, this old man was there, George Soros. He said, son, has anyone done this? I said, no, sir. People haven't even heard of it. He said, oh, so we're going to be the guinea pigs? I said, well,
Right.
you'll be the first one to experiment with and try it, you know. And, you know, after I made the presentation, the jaws, and we were the last, I was the last person in the whole group of people presenting.
To present, okay.
And the jaws were hanging. I said, that's good.
That is good.
Because meaning they haven't seen anything like this so far. So I came back pretty excited, and I got a call that we got the project. And then within 6 months, we had 8 projects.
Wow.
Wow.
And millions of dollars of design fees associated with that. We nailed it, you know. So, and all these articles, because we were doing these in the French part of Switzerland. So Switzerland has French, German, and Italian, three areas. And depending on which country they're close to, that's the language is spoken. So we were in the French part. And I didn't know French. So we had, luckily, a guy in our office who could translate all the articles. We had over 70 articles published on this project.
Wow.
Amazing.
So one of the articles I was reading is kind of funny that it says, you know, this famous American architect was born in India. And it was fascinating in a way, you know, that, and it was exciting, you know, and these projects were like the revolutionary projects in Europe, you know.
Boy,
And-
thinking outside the
And
box,
the-
I'll
the-
say.
Yeah,
Wow.
the beauty of it was that it was ever transforming, meaning if you were there for a few minutes, the space was changing because everything was digital. It's changing, you know. So you say, wow. So you never get bored, you know. It's just kind of, that was the whole idea.
That is something. That is really thinking outside the
Yeah.
box. Wow, that is so interesting. So we talk about in our introduction about what is it that you're feeling when you're anxious? And it's the body's natural response to stress that we all feel. Um, it's not just only in your mind, your heart races, maybe you have shallow or rapid breathing, restlessness, muscle tension, trouble sleeping or focusing. It's like an internal alarm for you and everything. But people have to like recognize that in their bodies and everything so that and we give people ways that they can lower their stress level, lower their anxiety level. We talk about panic attacks, which my mom used to have very
Yeah.
badly, but rapid breathing, pounding heart, sweating and shaking, dizziness, things like that. But you know, if we say in the book, if you can respond to these issues
Or learn
quickly,
to deal with it.
yes,
You know, it's like, you know Stuart Fisher, right?
I do.
So he's a cardiologist and our friend. And about 6-7 years ago, he was in a podcast. He and Braden
Yes.
and Susan Phillips.
Okay.
All three of them.
Yeah.
We were talking about stress because it was based on the chapter on stress. And the thing I liked about the way Stuart explained it, that it's a normal human condition. I mean, you can't eliminate stress. We are going to get stressed here and there. But the key is to learn to manage it, to deal with it.
Right.
So now when you were talking about anxiety, I said it's the same kind of a thing, you know. Chances are that if we can learn to manage our anxiety, stress, depression, obesity, and all those things, we'll be in a much better place.
Right.
Just learn to manage them, deal with them.
So, if I can, Professor Joy, you come up with some very effective tools to cope with anxiety. For example, breathing tools. And boy, have we talked about breathing in our podcasts and everything. Breathing for better sleep, for balance, things like that. Mindfulness and mental rest. Trying meditation, for example, to lower your anxiety level and your stress level. Creative outlets like doodling in a notebook or journaling will help you to reduce your levels. Body and lifestyle support, exercise, walking. Stephanie, I know somebody who probably almost every day walks on the beach.
Looking for mermaids.
Well, I wasn't going to say that because I didn't want to give their, you know, I didn't want to give
And
them away or
Okay.
anything
He
like
actually,
that.
when I'm walking down, he's actually driving in and we wave each other.
We do wave to each
Oh,
other. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that we do. But that is so important. Get a good night's sleep. Eat healthfully, things like that. Spend time in nature. Boy, have we talked about that. Limit your sugar, limit caffeine. Little things like that can help you to reduce your anxiety. And then finally, emotional tools, reframe thoughts, use affirmations, muscle relaxation, name your feelings. So this
Those
is,
are very good. Very good.
well, you came up with them. They better be pretty good. They better be pretty good. But yeah. So that's a real good overview of the first chapter
Mhm.
of our new brand spanking new anxiety book. Yeah. So you have anything else you'd like to share about anxiety?
Actually, the thing I like mentioned, if you can learn a little bit to manage it, deal with it.
Yes.
If you don't do anything about it, then obviously it's going to take over.
Right. It does. It takes
But if you
over your
manage it
life.
and deal with it, then it becomes easier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's now the best time of the podcast, right?
You mentioned spend time in nature.
Yes.
So I have a nature fact. Do you know that trees talk to each other? They communicate with each other.
I did not know that.
Yeah. The
Trees, Professor Joy. Did you know that they talk to each other?
No, I didn't.
Well, that's because you walk on the beach. There's no trees on the beach.
Through fungi attached to the roots. It's a root system called the mycorrhizal network, but you can call it the wood wide web. They send.
I love that. The wood wide web. I love that.
They send each other warning signals. They share nutrients, and
They talk to each
they
other.
do.
When's the last time you talked to one of your trees?
I got to learn that.
I know that people
I
talk
have-
to plants.
Yeah.
Animals I talk to.
I know you do. That scares me sometimes. I get anxiety when I hear that you're.
I even talk to my fish.
Oh boy.
I mean, I got about 60 of the koya fish that I talk to. And I got to take a picture of this one day. When I walk out to feed them and I kind of talk to them, they're literally jumping out of the water.
What do you say to them?
I said, hello, fish. There are too many to name them.
You just took the question right out of my mouth. I was just
So
gonna
I
say,
just say fish, and they just excited, when they see me, and I'm sure it's the food.
you don't think it's the attention they're getting? You think it's the
No,
food?
I think it's the
Oh
food.
my gosh.
But man, they're literally jumping out of the water.
Yeah, amazing.
I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I have a rabbit,
Right.
who I call him. His name is Rocky.
Okay.
And I call him dumb as a rock, Rocky.
And the rabbit's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of named him after his behavior, he used to be in a smaller cage, and I gave him half of the family room.
Oh wow.
Put a little fence I bought.
Right.
So now all day long he's trying to get out of it. And I said, how dumb one has to be to know that he can't get out, and he just keeps trying all day long.
Oh my gosh. His anxiety level must be high. Yeah.
Anyway, give him the
And we will see you next week when we discuss another chapter of Anxiety, A Joyful Comeback.